Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the second webinar and podcast on views from Saudi Arabia. In our last podcast, we spoke with an expert on finance, and this time we're moving to an expert on telecom and technology. There are many sectors which are booming in Saudi Arabia. So I thought that in each of the podcasts, we'll get an expert speaker from Saudi Arabia, Pakistani, who's doing amazingly well. And today we have Muneeb Wahid Khan Saab. And Muneeb Bhai, thank you for taking your time for this podcast.
Tamal Ali, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
And Muneeb Bhai, when we met recently in Saudi Arabia, but when we met and we found out that we were at LUMS at the same time. I was doing undergraduate and he was doing an MBA. And he has a very fascinating and impressive and insightful career. And in fact, extremely impressive. He was at Mobily. Has been on the boards of many of the ventures and startups, incubators on that set up by telecom companies. But I let him tell more about it. So, Munibhai, can you run us through your career and especially after LUMS, how did you go to Saudi and all the amazing stuff which you have been doing over there?
Thank you, Ali. Thank you for your kind words. So basically, born and brought up in Lahore, entire education in Lahore. I think I went basically after schooling, I went to government college, which is now the Government College University. After that, I went for my undergrad to the University of Engineering and Technology, UET Lahore. After my undergrad, I worked for a couple of months, and I think unfortunately those were the only couple of months that I got the chance to work in Lahore. After that, I got admission to LUMS for my MBA. After graduating from LUMS, I spent 2 years at what at that time was called Mobilink. Today it's called Jazz. So I basically started my career in the market research slash pricing department. But I think I was very lucky, very fortunate enough that I got an opportunity at that time. The second telecom operator in UAE was basically about to be launched, Do Telecom. So what happened was, during lunch breaks and on the floor discussions in our department, everybody used to talk about that. There is a massive hiring spree going on, for Do Telecom. So we shared basically contacts with each other. I also applied for a position. I had no experience in strategy, but I have been a person who likes to experiment, and basically, I am always ready for new experiences. So luckily, what happened is I did get selected, but the problem was, it was a position which was, let's say, 2 levels below the level I was at Mobilink. So I think it was a tough choice, keeping money and everything aside. It was a tough choice because I had to probably go into a new market. I would probably have to prove myself again from scratch. But I decided to take the opportunity. Good thing is, I went there as a junior analyst. By the time my probation had finished, I was already promoted to a senior analyst. Then I think within a span of 1.5 years, I became a manager. And let's not forget that was in an area in corporate strategy, which I did not have any prior experience in. So fascinating journey. It was a new telecom operator. I joined them 6 months before launch. We started with zero market share against the giant Etisalat. I stayed there for 5 years. By the time I left, I think we had moved from zero to approximately 40% market share. So I think it was a phenomenal experience there. Working in a true multicultural environment, because of UAE and Dubai also, and because of because they ended up putting together a team, from all continents of the world. After that, I got a good opportunity, a good career jump, I would say, in Saudi, at Mobily. So I decided to pursue that. Came here, continued with the same, let's say, area of expertise, strategy. I remember at that time, Mobily was setting up Mobile Ventures Fund, venture capital fund. The subsidiary was called Mobile Ventures, and it was born out of the strategy department itself. So I used to tell my boss, who himself was an management consultant, that I told him, strategy is quite boring. I should probably go there and work with the venture capital guys. And he told me, please sit where you are. But as they say, you should be very careful what you ask for. We are strong believers in our faith. So I think what I asked for came true probably in 12 to 15 months. The team and the head who were basically looking after the venture fund decided to move on. The company basically went through a crisis, and I was probably the only one left, who had a history, how the venture fund started, and all the relationships. So again, I was, let's say, I would not say I was thrown. I decided to take a jump in the deep end of the pool myself. So I think this is how my interaction with venture capital and the entrepreneurial ecosystem started. I spent a decade almost in Mobile, which is a good significant period, I would say. But I think I always believe that you only end up spending this much time if, number one, you are being taken care of, and you are also adding value to the entity that you are working for. So I think I got good career jumps at one time. Basically, my boss's boss, because of the crisis in the company, everybody resigned, and I was basically, I was, let's say, the last man standing in the strategy department. So I got the opportunity, basically, to report directly to the CEO. It was actually my ex chief strategy officer, very kind enough. He recommended to the CEO that he should work with me for 3 months. If he is not satisfied, he can always bring a senior guy there. So I think 3 months basically became, I think, 21 plus months. During those 21 plus months, I was basically, the youngest on the table as far as the management team is concerned. I got the chance to work with, let's say, three CEOs approximately, because there was a lot of changes were happening. Then I think, let's say 15 to 18 months ago, I decided that it was time for a new experience. I was fascinated by the mandate that healthcare sector has as part of Vision 2030. So I basically moved to the number one hospital in Saudi Arabia, and I think so far so good, enjoying it.
Oh, this is so fascinating, and we are so proud of you, both as Pakistanis as well as fellow alumnus. And when you were describing, there were so many key takeaways from me for me that you took difficult decisions, leap of faith, but were consistent. You kept your ambition high, but you were not scared of taking a step back for that high ambition. And then because you were there and you knew where your North Star was, what you wanted to achieve, opportunity came sooner or later, and you were able to get that opportunity and rise. And mashallah, the other impressive thing which I find very inspiring is how you have done things which you have not stuck to the confines of one thing, like UAT, engineering, LUMS, management, then telecom, then strategy, data analysis, venture, and now healthcare. So it's very difficult to find a common thread amongst that. Of course, there are common things, but you were able to break through the barriers which often stop us from making difficult choices because we are scared of making difficult choices. I have a lot of things to ask you, but I'm conscious of the time. So I'll just move to the next question, which is keeping in consistent for the formats for this podcast. Can you tell us what's happening in Saudi Arabia in the sectors you have been involved in? So telecom, venture, and now healthcare.
Yeah, so I think uh, it would not be false, let's say, if I say that Saudi Arabia is passing through an unprecedented era. So if I were to touch on, let's say, where I started in Saudi, which is the telecom market, I think full credit to the Ministry of Communications and IT, full credit to the telecom regulator here, CST, for being so proactive in developing the sector. And I think what is happening in telecom is that telecom basically we have witnessed with our own eyes the true contribution, let's say, that technology and digitalization can bring to the overall economy. So I think Saudi, probably I would say, Saudi pre-Vision 2030 was basically known for uh, relatively long processes. As far as government departments are concerned, even in some of the private sector entities, customer service probably was not the best. Even if you were to take a very small subset of GCC countries, Saudi was probably not there. The focus on basically ensuring that when people have access to internet, broadband, mobile broadband, and fixed broadband also, it basically unleashes, new opportunities for them. So I think what has happened in telecom during the last probably decade, or specifically during the last 5 years, is that a lot of foreign investment has come. Mobile and Zan both continue to be, let's say, they are owned partly by foreign investors. MVNOs basically have sprung up. When HTC was there and Mobile launched in 2005, I was not here in Saudi, but I am being told that Mobile came as a breath of fresh air. It basically, it gave people a choice. Then in 2009 Zan came. So what was happening is 2009 and onwards, it was these three players basically playing on price, playing on customer experience, and probably it was from 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G, and probably this G battle or just G race would have continued forever till the time basically MVNOs were introduced, which were basically as is the case globally, to focus on niche segments. We have Lebara, again a foreign player. Virgin Mobile is here, foreign player. We have Red Bull Mobile, again a foreign player. We have basically Salam Mobile, a local entity. So I think there is a lot of competition, and at the end of the day, two people are benefiting. Number one, consumer, because they have a lot of choice. Number two is the good thing is that the regulator or the government has kept the competition in check. They basically end up raising the standards. Whether it's, for example, just to give you an example, the percentage of revenue that needs to be plowed back into capex investment, to keep upgrading your network. Basically, that's a requirement. You cannot get away with that. And what happens is, of course, you are going to benefit as a telecom operator or as an MVNO in the long run. But probably the regulator and the government has more long-term vision. They basically look at the long-term after effects on the economy, on the society as a whole. So I think telecom has come a long way. I think Saudi, if I'm not mistaken, Saudi is probably among the top countries when it comes to the highest speed. And I think now a lot of the global vendors are actually sitting here. What I personally call the real 5G, which is for enterprise segment. Where we will have private networks. So I think they are sitting here actually customizing or tailoring things, to the requirements of the industrial sector in Saudi Arabia. So I think this is where telecom has come. As far as venture capital is concerned, I will just briefly give you a before and after comparison. When we incorporated the venture fund, there was no such regulation in Saudi. We incorporated it in Bahrain. It was incorporated, and the funny thing is, it was incorporated as a holding company because at that time it was thought it would be quick and easy. first of all to incorporate, number two, then basically run its day-to-day operations. And I think after that, what has happened is that basically, after Vision 2030 came, there has been a complete 180-degree turnaround. And I think the number of startups that are basically based out of Saudi, the number of startups, I would say, that have migrated to Saudi to make it its base. I think it's phenomenal. And I think full credit to the Saudi venture capital company, full credit basically, to the other semi-government and private entities who are basically, helping to promote, the entrepreneurial ecosystem. There are a lot of initiatives where, it's not that if you are a Saudi startup, then only basically, you will be taken care of or you will be loved. As long as you are willing to add value, to the economy, as well as you are willing to basically provide something that benefits a larger segment of the society, you are more than welcome. And I think this is the real essence of the change that has sprung in Saudi. This welcoming attitude, because I think it is very clear that Saudi Arabia believes that their objective is to increase the share of the pie. It's not about keeping this small size of the pie and keeping all to yourself. It is basically, increasing the size of the pie, with the help of partners, private sector, based in Saudi and based out of Saudi. That is why if we see, there are a lot of programs that whose foundation is on public-private partnership. So, there are unlimited, I would say, number of venture funds that have sprung up. Saudi Arabia, if you look at the quarterly MENA reports, the number of investments that has been raised by Saudi startups is going up and up. The number of most active venture capital funds are in Saudi Arabia. Number three is the best thing is that the funds that are coming up are actually spearheaded by very successful Saudi investment bankers, who probably ended up working in multinational banks or investment entities per se, and then they also decided to that they need to basically jump on the bandwagon and basically create through their network their own venture fund. And I think to be honest, in my personal opinion, the inspiration for this amazing growth in this sector comes from actually the government's vision. I think PIF probably, is the entity that everybody looks up to. So I think the way PIF model is basically based, and how it is executed, I think it's a source of inspiration, for private entities, private funds. And I think we can all see, if you look at the latest PIF annual report, we can see, the amazing returns basically that they are making. So I think a lot of opportunity, a lot of growth. Best thing is two. Number one is basically, a very young population. Number two is purchasing power. I believe, these are the two very important things, for having a very successful and thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. I think moving on to the third and last one, healthcare.
Yes, very keen to hear about healthcare. But before that, I think the thing which I find very insightful is that how you've mentioned about the 180 degrees change, and I think that's really important when I meet people, because a lot of people in Pakistan, they remember the old Saudi, or they have heard about the old Saudi, and I tell them that you need to forget about what you know or what has been told to you or how your experiences have been in the past. Like there's a new Saudi, and I think you refer to that. But would love to hear now about healthcare, your new passion.
Yeah, so basically healthcare, I think as part of Vision 2030, there is a health sector transformation program. The objectives are very clear and let's say very, very simple. Number one is, they want to make sure that there is ease of access to healthcare services. Number two is, with ease, they want to make sure that, they improve the value that healthcare services provide. There should be, if people are paying, even does not matter, even if, an employer is paying on your behalf through insurance, they need to make sure that, they get the best services, the best treatment available. So these, I would say, are some proactive measures. On top of that, they're also working on strengthening the prevention of health risks. Pakistan and Saudi are similar in a way, probably, where there is a high percentage of interfamily marriages, cousin marriages. As a result, there is a high precedence of genetic-based diseases. King Abdullah Center for Science and Technology basically owns, I believe, what is called the Saudi Genome Bank. And
Yes.
there's a lot of investment and work, amazing work, basically, that is going on there, to make sure how gene mutation basically can help, let's say, diseases like, for example, diabetes. If I remember correctly, 4.6 million people, which would roughly be, I think, 15% of the population, suffer from diabetes in
The
Saudi.
highest, I think it's the highest penetration of diabetes. It's
Yes.
child diabetes.
Unfortunately, if the preventive measures are not taken into account, this number is expected to rise to 8 million by 2030. So I think there is work going on there. And I remember when I came, I might be wrong, but I heard that Saudi unfortunately was on a list, uh, unpleasant list of highest per capita deaths in traffic accidents. Yeah. So
Yes.
that is also basically part of the health sector transformation program. And it says that, we need to enhance traffic safety, and all the work that you see, whether it's through cameras, whether it's through awareness, whether basically, there are now car designs basically by foreign manufacturers, which basically lock the speed at 140 or 160. You cannot go beyond them. And, it was very inspiring for me. And I checked with one or two of them, and they said, we have made a company policy that we don't want to feature our brand and logo in any car accident picture or video. So that is why basically, they want to make sure that, it is locked. So, through this health sector transformation program, what they want to achieve is that they want to make sure that 88% of the population is covered by inclusive healthcare, whether it is primary, secondary, tertiary healthcare, they are taken care of. And the best thing is, the other goal is that 100% of the population basically needs to be covered by a unified, digital medical record system. So the advantage for that is right now, I think throughout GCC, wherever you go, the moment you change a hospital, the other hospital, the new hospital does not have your history. Yeah. So you have to basically start from scratch. Here, what they are trying to do is have a digital health record. You basically own that, and, it is accessible to all the hospitals. Wherever you go, everybody basically will have a history. And I think it will help with diagnosis, and I think it will definitely help with the prevention also. Most important achievement of HSTP till to date is, the formation of Seha virtual hospital. So it is basically one of the biggest, I think, globally, because it connects 150 hospitals,
Oh, wow.
if I remember correctly, and it basically probably covers 100 or some specialities that can be addressed through that hospital. So I think a lot of opportunities, and I think one of the reasons to check a pulse check, whether the transformation program in the healthcare sector is on track, yes or no, is that a lot of big names, global names, are basically coming to Saudi Arabia. Whenever I was in Jeddah last, I saw King's College London
Yes.
building their own facility. I
Yes.
heard after Abu Dhabi, Cleveland is making its second foray into the region by opening a facility in Jeddah. We already have Aramco, who have a joint venture with, we already have John Hopkins. They have a joint venture with Aramco. So the Aramco healthcare facility hospital in their head office Dahran, Khobar is basically managed by John Hopkins. So I think for me, this is number one, a trust on the evolution that is going there. Number two, I think this is a trust on the potential that the healthcare has, because at the end of the day, healthcare, or let's say healthcare services, it's a very noble cause. But for healthcare service providers, at the end of the day, it's a commercial business, and it needs to be financially feasible. And to be honest, the best example I give people is, of the religious tourism. Just to have an idea of the, let's say, market potential. So the number of pilgrims that come to Saudi Arabia for Umrah and Hajj combined together, I think, are probably more than visitors to an Olympics game. Yes. So remember, Olympic Games happens every 4 years. Yes. Hajj and Umrah is every year. So that is the transient population. Yes, that has to come to this country every year. And now, with the Umrah and Hajj cycle, basically open 12 months, you actually need facilities, only to cater to them, starting from primary healthcare. But God forbid, anything can happen. So, you need to be ready with that.
So
So I
massive opportunity. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just conscious of time, and I'm really interested in moving to the second phase, because the second phase of the questions are what the people would be really, the viewers will really be interested in, and that was my one of the reasons for actually reaching out to you was that a lot of the questions which I get from people are from your sector. So a lot of people in Pakistan, in telecom, especially telecom and tech, they message me that what's happening in Saudi, how can we get a job? So I have no insights into that. So I was waiting to post your podcasts and ask you that what's your advice to people from Pakistan who want to get a job in Saudi Arabia, in telecom, in tech, and in healthcare.
Yeah, so basically, I think, let's be honest, the recruitment industry in GCC has long been driven by headhunters, recruiters. And irrespective of whatever people say, I would still place them there. Probably, their market share earlier was 80-85%. It might have come down to 50-55%, but I think they still continue to be number one. And most of them are, based out of the UAE, but, they are opening their regional offices here. Or even if they don't have a regional office, 80% of their business is coming from Saudi Arabia. So I think that is one way to do it. Number two is,
Any
basically,
names, any names of headhunting firm which people can contact?
so for example, you can always get in touch with people at Michael Page. The number one in telecom is probably RP International. My job in Dubai was also through RP. So I think you can go there. If you are looking for a short term or a contractual work, you can get in touch with Huxley. They are doing a lot of work in project management relating, risk management relating, 3 to 6 months contract, but they basically have a option to extend it for a similar period. So I think this is what you can do. Number one is, I know it will sound monotonous, but I will mention LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, it does not mean that basically just clicking on jobs and applying. You need to make an effort. A lot of people ask me also of the right approach. So what I tell them is, this philosophy, I remember hearing this from somebody, that they say, being interested is what makes you interesting. So, let's say if I have to apply to a ABC telecom company, I cannot just, put alerts for jobs on the telecom, and then I am a finance major, and, I am a expert in probably financial modeling. And then what I do is, there is a job in, I don't know, HR or risk management. And then, I keep applying. What happens is, that database is basically maintained with the company. Yes. And obviously with LinkedIn also, you are actually, diminishing your chances.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you are basically firing shots in a dark room, everywhere. You are not focused. This is number one. So what you need to do is, you probably need to either follow the people there. You basically need to join, telecom related groups in MENA. you basically need to show people, the value, your opinion, how it is done. And basically, they say that you basically need to make sure that you approach it in the right manner. I have seen a lot of people basically following this approach, and I see them in Saudi and outside Saudi also making it to Saudi by following this approach for not more than 2 to 3 months, because then you basically end up getting noticed. This is all what it is about, whether it's job or it's the career ladder or the rat race, as we call it. It's all about standing out from the crowd. So I think this is another way to do that. Number three is basically networking events. You should not, I think, all the effort that, let's say, I'm just talking about fresh graduates, all the effort that career development offices back home put in having speaker sessions and basically career fairs, I think they need to be taken seriously, because companies here and overall in GCC basically take them very seriously. And then last but not the least is basically one-to-one interactions. If I was to get into an ABC company, please, it is never recommended to send an email or just send a connection for to connect, and then say that LinkedIn does not help, or this guy is very this guy is not responsive. You can always basically develop something if you have an idea, any work that you have done, and you can basically start following them, replying on their status. And this is how one to one you basically end up penetrating where you want to get at. Just in a nutshell, I would actually summarizing let's say job prospects or job hunting through an acronym. I call it ACE. A stands for attitude, C stands for commitment, and basically E stands for effort. I will very quickly explain. So attitude is, what I just explained. You cannot just do cold calls and keep on clicking easy apply to every job opportunity. You need to make sure, what is the match between the job description and, your area of expertise. So this is basically, you need to go with the right attitude. Commitment is, you basically need to be consistent. Yes, you cannot be vying for a job opportunity in Saudi today, and 2 months down the road you are applying for opportunities in Europe because somebody told you probably it is easier to get a PR in Malta and Germany. So I think you basically need to be committed to that market. Last but not the least is effort. I think nobody knows better than you, being a financial expert, the compounding effect. It is these small steps. Yes, but these small steps and efforts need to be consistent. Job hunting, or basically finding a better opportunity, unfortunately cannot be a hobby or a part-time job. It probably needs to be done, if not every day, every other day. And eventually a time will come when basically the compounding effect will have a positive impact, and you will basically get where you have intended to.
Thank you so much. So commitment and consistency. We have 5 minutes left, but I am really keen to put in this question as well. Advice for Pakistani companies who want to do business, especially in your sectors, so healthcare and telecom. And secondly, advice for Pakistan government. But we only have 5 minutes left, so
Yeah.
would love to get your views
So
on
I will try to answer both of them in 4 minutes. So basically, for Pakistani companies, I will be very straightforward and blunt. In any operation in a company or a country, there are three things that matter. Number one, people. Yes. Number two, basically processes. Number three, it used to be system, but now it is called technology. You want to come and expand to Saudi Arabia, or basically you need business from Saudi Arabia, or you want to set up joint ventures, you need to decide which out of these three areas are you going to add value. Very quickly, technology. Is there a technology that probably you have let's say you have proprietary rights over? I will not say that you have a intellectual property right or a patent filed. But is there a technology that you are superior in that basically can change the game in Saudi? Tick one. You are all set. You are approaching the right market. Number two is people. Do you have the capabilities as a company, as a team, which can really basically add value to Saudi Arabia? You are more than welcome. Last but not the least is, processes. Here I basically mean not the manual processes. I am referring to digitalization. Are you able to automate basically, whatever happening in Saudi in different sectors? Why? Because, automation or digitalization is about three things: faster, better, cost effective. And, I think every business is going to love this if they are able to be faster, better, cost effective, on a daily ongoing basis. Or let's say, if they can take big leaps on that, this is going to improve their top and bottom line. And basically, just to probably summarize this for Pakistani company, again, thinking, in the form of acronyms. When you want to go into a country, you need to make sure that, there is some value that, you are adding. Value addition, I understand that, it's an overused word, but, for Saudi Arabia, I will make it very simple. Value is usually synonymous with monetization. So the currency here is SAR. So let's. So what I believe is that in Saudi Arabia, the value addition has to be number one through speed. Vision 2030 has made the entire country basically mimic an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Yes. So here the number one thing that startups thrive on versus large corporates is speed. So if you are not following that, you cannot add value to Saudi Arabia. Number two is adaptability. A lot of things basically change in this region: geopolitics, macroeconomic. It has a fall of out effect. If you are very rigid, with your number one portfolio, number two your business and operating model, then I think it will be tough to basically crack the Saudi market. Last but not the least is that in Saudi Arabia, relationships matter. Yes, you want to add value, you cannot come here for a transactional you cannot come here with a transactional mindset. It has to be relationship. So just to wrap up on this question, it has to be speed, number two adaptability, number three relationship. As far as the advice to the
Government.
Pakistan,
Yes.
yeah, as far as the advice to the Pakistan government is concerned, I think everybody in Pakistan has a plan, but unfortunately there is no planning. And for me, planning basically matters more than the plan. In Pakistan, what we need is basically consistency of policies. Whether you have to attract foreign direct investment, or even if you have to do trade, import, export with other countries, if you are not consistent, nobody is basically going to put their foot in a very uncertain environment. And basically, what we need to do is that, we need to make sure that we have consistency. Number two is labor upskilling. All of the unskilled jobs that Pakistanis have in the region and world over are going to be impacted severely by technology, automation, AI. So what we need to do is, what basically, the best example is Philippines. What they do is they basically, make sure that they upskill their labor even before they apply to any jobs overseas. So I think this is what we need to do. Last but not the least is just to basically, in order to think big, we basically need to, come up out of our shell and basically collaborate, among nations. The best
Thank you
example
so
is
much.
India.
We are out of time, but this was extremely insightful, and you spoke like a true strategy expert and guru, and I think as a teacher as well. So I learned a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to follow up with you. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take